Well, I won't be needing a sonic screwdriver this year. I already have my wearable sonic technology. It's funny, I ordered these sunglasses a couple months ago. And other than the fact that he has black lenses and I have blue, they're pretty close. Pretty close. Which is familiar. I enjoyed the episode a lot. Missy again made the episode for me. Michelle Gomez was amazing, and I hope it's not the last we've seen of her. But the Doctor, in the end, made some choices that show he's kind of skewing towards Ninth Doctor territory. I'm already getting the feeling for where they're going with this season. Of course, this is spoiler filled. I'm going to put that right in the title. Of course, Clara wasn't dead. We all knew she wasn't dead last week. Anybody who was celebrating she was dead hasn't watched the show long enough. Just because you see somebody die doesn't mean they're dead. And Davros isn't dead either. So when Moffat said this was the last confrontation between the Doctor and Davros, Moffat lies. The statement that the one rule is the Doctor lies, well, who writes for the Doctor? Moffat. Therefore, Moffat lies. But I got a kick out of Davros, and yet, in the end, the Doctor chose to do something that potentially completely changed history. And in making that decision, in choosing mercy, I really think we're going to see the Valyard. I really think what they're setting up is that he's going to try to create this universe where everything's fantastic, and the end result is going to be Clara dies, and he ends up going before the Valyard, where he has to answer for his crimes before the Time Lords. So basically it'll be, yeah, the Time Lords are back, and then they'll arrest him. That's where I think it's headed. Because he has broken the rules. Going back in time and doing something that massive is a really large rule break. And the Doctor is known for breaking the rules, but this is big. Going back and completely altering Davros's childhood is big. And he says he's saving his friend, but Clara was already safe when he said it. So he's saving Davros from becoming Davros. It's deep, and it's definitely going to lead to some other stuff down the road. So next week's episode is to start another two-parter. Where would I rate this week's episode? Last week's was a 12 out of 10. This one I would give a solid 8. I would have given it a 10, but once Clara and Missy were removed from the main picture, it reminded me of the Simpsons episode where they go to the future and Homer and Marge are looking for Lincoln's gold. Because the storyline at the heart of it seems a little bit thin. So they include this completely unrelated storyline. And to me it felt like what Clara and Missy were doing with the sewer and the Dalek and getting back was pretty unrelated to what was going on with the Doctor. And you know, in the end, Missy shows how evil she is and she'll never change. The Doctor seems surprised by this. Can't tell that A, Missy's lying, and B, that it's not a real Dalek talking to him. My problem is that if the nanites got in, then isn't Clara turning into a Dalek? Didn't we learn in season 7 that once those nanites get in there, you can't just take them out? So that's got me wondering. Like, so is Clara doomed to repeat the death of Oswin Oswald from the Dalek Asylum? Or she will turn into a Dalek. Because, yeah, as soon as she got the electrodes implanted here, I was like, oh, okay, so she's going to turn into a Dalek. That's how they're going to kill her off. I could be wrong, but it's fun to speculate. And the sunglasses thing is going to piss a lot of people off. Honestly, it's a Capaldi thing. And it takes away one of the show's crutches, where it's going to upset people. It's going to upset the BBC that they can't market sonic screwdrivers anymore. They have to find a way to come up with sonic sunglasses. And I don't know how with sunglasses you're going to fit a sound device in there without making big, bulky, ugly-looking sunglasses. Because clearly in the episode he's wearing these, and the sound effect is added in post, which I'm completely fine with. I think that's fine. It's a lazy plot device anyways, and for a lot of Season 8 they were getting away from the need for the screwdriver. Or it wasn't the Doctor using it, it was Clara using it. They kind of dropped the screwdriver's importance a little bit, or it didn't work. So this season they're taking it out altogether, and I agree. Too many instances, especially with the 10th Doctor, where it would be, everything's going to die. Oh wait, I've got a screwdriver. Zap something and everybody's fine. So taking that Deus Ex Machina out of the show will actually, I think, improve it. I'm very excited for this year. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be dark. I think it's going to be very dark. I think that the Doctor and Clara will be much more energetic and much more upbeat, but the actual tone behind them will be a downer. Which reminds me of Season 6 on some level. I didn't like Season 6, or Series 6 if you're a Brit. You know, technically Doctor Who is each season is a series, completely independent, supposedly. But to me anyways, this feels like 6 done properly. You've had the Master, you've had the Daleks, now they're both out for the rest of the year. Now we can focus on new monsters and new threats. And yet, you know, I've been reading that they're going to have Cybermen in this year again, and that they're going to bring back the Weeping Angels again. And I don't think you need either of those. I think we need a lot more new, because I don't know what more you can do with the Weeping Angels unless you show how they came into being. To me, what always threw me about the Weeping Angels was that they're covering their face. When the 10th Doctor at the end of time is standing there with the Time Lords in front of him, the woman who's either his mother or his wife, it depends on what your point of view is. Russell T Davies never said which one it was, and I don't even know if Davies knew himself. He was just saying, okay, this is a woman that's either his mother or his wife. We're going to throw her in the background. But they had their eyes covered. And I was like, okay, so the Weeping Angels were Time Lords. They're disgraced Time Lords. And they've been frozen and turned into these monsters for something they did during the Time War. Like, it's always been this theory I've had since I watched End of Time. Whether it's accurate or not, I'll never know. Unless this year Moffat gets into how the Weeping Angels came to be. Because they've sort of been brushed off as they're these ancient villains from forever ago. Well, Time Lords exist beyond time and space, so there has to be an origin story for the Weeping Angels. And maybe it'll be like Davros. Maybe it'll be, you know, Davros was a little kid at the start of last week's episode. We didn't know who it was, and then all of a sudden, I'm Davros. Maybe in one of these episodes, the Doctor will help somebody, and then at the end, something's going to happen where they become the Weeping Angels. And maybe the Doctor's responsible for it. Maybe the Doctor is responsible for the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels, all of it. If that's where they're headed, and the Valyard comes forward to, you know, take him back to court and say, no, you've been found guilty of all this, and Clara dies because of sins of the Doctor. Okay. But, you know, I could be wrong. And it could just as easily be that bad things happen and Clara decides this is too dangerous and she leaves. Because she decides she'd rather be a teacher and, you know, just live a normal life than remain on the TARDIS and take her life in her own hands. Missy trying to get the doctor to shoot Clara seemed so off. So weird. It just seemed so weird. And that whole bit seems so weird. And the Supreme Dalek, I've always liked the idea of the Supreme Dalek, even though I don't understand it. I don't understand how one would become a Supreme Dalek, since none of them have a personality of their own, and who decides which Dalek is the leader. Is it born the leader? Is it like a queen bee that when that is born you just know it's a queen? Do you just know it's a Dalek, Supreme Dalek? It's weird. The sewers were a nice touch. That was probably the creepiest thing I've seen in Doctor Who in a very long time. Probably since, in a similar scene, River goes underneath where they are and finds the silence completely is occupying the basement, the under area there. I want to say basement. It's not like a basement because you're climbing down a ladder. Anyways, people who watch the show know what I'm talking about. In there's Day of the Moon where she crawls down and oh my God, what's that? And then when she turns away, of course she forgets it's the silence. She's like, there's nothing down here. It's clean. To me, the Dalek sewer, just as creepy. I don't understand either how the Doctor, using his regeneration energy, knowing that Davros would want him to do that, did he know Missy was going to come in and try to save him? Because he had no way of knowing Missy was there. He even still thought Clara was dead. Did he think that Missy was clever enough to survive, but Clara wasn't? If he saw that blue flash for both of them, didn't he know one was still alive, that the other had to be as well? It's just strange. It's very, very strange. But at least it explained that Missy got away the way that I said she did. Which is teleport. The moment she gets hit, teleport. It's a plot convenience, sure. Deus Ex Machina, absolutely. But it happens in sci-fi all the time. So, it just seemed to me, and that's part of the reason why I'm not giving this episode a perfect score, because it seemed to me like, in the end, it was almost like Moffat went, this is really clever. How the hell am I going to get the Doctor out of this? Oh, Missy comes in. Oh, wait a minute. So the Doctor knew. Yeah, the Doctor knew. He always knows. He always assumes he's going to win. But logically, if he hadn't plugged himself in and used his regenerative energy, Davros would have died. Now, if Davros knows he would die, now if he knew about the regenerative energy, like that makes that whole scene, which was a really good scene, well written, weird. And then at the end, it's like, oh mercy, oh I've got to go, and I'm trying to save my friend, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, Davros was trying to kill him. You know, Davros, if they're going to portray Davros as having a heart, then portray him as having a heart. Portraying him as having a heart, and then being heartless, and then going back to portraying him as having a heart within 5 minutes of each other, is kind of headache-inducing. Because you're left sitting there going, so that's the end of Davros. According to Moffat, and Moffat lies, that's the end of Davros. So that's it. He may or may not be heartless, and he may or may not be a kid that went on to lead a happy life and never created the Daleks. Or he was always destined to create the Daleks, and what the Doctor did, saving him from the hand mines, did nothing at all. And that's as clear as it got. I'm not a fan of Clara's leather jacket. It's almost as if this season they're trying to make the whole show rock and roll, which is okay for the Doctor, but for the Doctor and Clara to both go rock and roll in their appearance at the same time seems kind of odd. And yet I think about it, and I think Clara's wore that leather jacket. I think she wore it in Day of the Doctor. I think it's the short hair too. She just looks different. And it's weird. So maybe next week, if he's back to wearing the old suit, when he puts on the sunglasses and he's next to her in a leather jacket, I won't be thinking I'm watching like an old AC/DC or ZZ Top video, because it's sort of like where they're going with it. The Doctor has his trends. Go back to the 80s and look how ugly everything was, because 80s, bright colors or 80s, if Colin Baker had the Doctor look the way he wanted him to look, he wouldn't be the running joke in terms of the appearance of the Doctor. And you wouldn't have had question marks all over him or all over Sylvester McCoy if they'd had their say. But trendy 80s meant ugly, so maybe this decade means rock and roll, even though you don't hear a whole lot of rock and roll anymore. It's kind of a dead thing. That's why everybody goes nuts over AC/DC concerts for a band that I think peaked over 30 years ago. I think they peaked with Back in Black, and since then it's been a slow downhill move for them in terms of each album that's successively gone downhill. Razor's Edge was kind of a move up, and then it just went, there was like this thing that happened and went right off. There's like a cliff, and it just, Niagara Falls right over. And I'm really hoping that the Doctor isn't on that kind of trajectory. I have high hopes for this season. It really depends on how they play it. So, I'm very excited for next week. I think this will be a good two-parter. New monsters are always good. And we'll see where it goes. So, yeah, 8 out of 10 this week. I want to give it more. I want to say, oh, it was perfect and great, everything's fantastic, but there's just that something. There's just that something that just didn't mix. And it's because there wasn't enough time of Missy and the Doctor together in this episode, and Missy and Clara and the Doctor together. It virtually didn't exist. So it kind of made the whole thing seem forced. And I'm wondering if the episode wouldn't have been better if you took this week's and last week's, made it a one-parter, and just took Clara and Missy out altogether, and just had it the Doctor and Davros and the Daleks. And I think you could have created a really fantastic, solid hour, and psychological, and you could have included the whole sewer bit somehow with the Doctor, of course, and you could have, done something amazing, and then saved Missy and Clara for some other adventure. I just feel like that could have been really intense, almost like a Marvel movie type intense. Just the two of Davros and the Doctor. So, I guess we'll see where they go next week.